Welcome to the Secret Keepers podcast with your host, Kareen Zutleger. Join us as we uncover the hidden thoughts, stories, and moments that help bring light to the healing power of truth and examine how silence can affect us mentally, physically, and spiritually. We'll also share profound stories, interviews, and transformative narratives to help release ourselves from the hidden and step into healing towards inner peace, joy, and fulfillment. Now, here's your healing strategist and host, Kareen.
Welcome to the Secret Keepers podcast. And today my guest is Lisa Liimitta, and she is one of the co-founders of Rise Leadership Circle. Thanks for coming today, Lisa. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. This feels celebratory for me in so many ways to be witnessing you kicking off this podcast, because I think you have such a gorgeous mission, such a healing mission that needs to get out into the world.
Thank you for that. And I just would love for you to tell the audience how it is that this came about and how it is that that you know me.
Well, that's fun. Okay. I mean, you and I met how many years ago? A zillion years ago. We were probably both in our 30s, I'm gonna say, when we met, and we're a little bit older than that now. Can we keep our age a secret? Is that no, I'm just kidding. But we did meet so many years ago, and I feel like we've had this beautiful friendship that then aligned with our daughters becoming super close friends. And just like, I love the way that this journey has connected us for, I mean, 20, 15 years. I don't know how long. It's been a long time, right?
I'm
15 years.
15, probably
A long
15
time.
years. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I feel like this probably is your story to tell more than mine, but the reason that I was so excited to be here for you today is that I remember us talking about this podcast coming to light last year. And as we were just kind of like talking back and forth about your mission and your why, and like what feels so important to you about helping people heal, right, from the secrets that we keep. And I remember hearing this idea for the podcast in the way that you described it, which I hope you'll describe kind of your idea and your inspiration for this. You were just lit up so on fire, and it was such a full yes in my body, because I feel like for people that tune into this, it's going to be such a healing and freeing journey to hear the stories that you'll be sharing.
Yeah, it was so fun. So I was with Lisa, and we were doing a weekend retreat. Lisa is one of my business coaches, and we were just talking about my passion for wanting to raise awareness around adverse childhood experiences and generational trauma and healing. And it had come from my husband and I were watching the TV show series Downton Abbey, and it was this awareness that the matriarch of the family kept all the secrets, and she was keeping just the stuff that she was keeping. It wasn't really hers to keep, but in order to save face for the family name, right? Heaven forbid you don't want to tarnish the family name. People were expected to hide pregnancies and keep, affairs secret. And in this matriarch of the family kept this burden. And it got me thinking about all of the things that we as women or as human beings experience in our life that we carry deep inside of us and bury, essentially, because there's shame around it. I can hear the shame on you, or the guilt that we're to experience. And I was like, no, this is so bad. This is wreaking havoc on us, and not just not just in us in a mental, emotional way, but it's wreaking havoc on us physically. It's wreaking havoc on us spiritually because now we believe that there's something wrong with us instead of maybe we did something wrong, but the tone behind it is that I am wrong. There's something, wrong with me as a human. So thank you for helping me bring this to life because it is just a passion for me.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm so
you.
excited about it. I think um when we carry these secrets, right? We literally physically carry them in our bodies. And like you said, shame goes along with it, right? When there's something we feel we can't speak about or we can't tell because we feel guilty or we feel shameful about it, all of that lives within our physical body and manifests in disease, and emotional and mental unwellness can come from it. And, so many things that you and I both, work with people as life coaches and on a daily basis where we know how healing it is to actually be able to share our stories, to share what's within us, to be witnessed by another person. And so I think that this is such a beautiful step and also kind of a testimony to where we're headed as a world now, that we're able to have these conversations. And I think it's going to be so freeing for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. What I was thinking about as you were talking is how the energy gets trapped in our bodies because, now, this trauma occurred, and every time I relive the trauma within my body, it's trapping that energy even deeper within. And then, there are things that we can do to help release it. And one of it is bring that secret to light so that I'm not saying you got to get on this podcast and you got to broadcast to the world all of your deep, dark secrets. That is not the point of this. And everything, on this podcast this is our opinion and um, it should never replace, medical advice, um, that sort of thing. But what we're looking for is to help you raise your awareness so that you can then take responsibility for your own life and make some different choices. I don't know, like, as far as for me, growing up, I grew up in a home where there could be at any moment's time violence could break out, and I learned to really be a good hider. And so as the secret keeper for me, I was a hider. I hid and I kept myself safe, and we didn't talk about the things that happened within our home because we were really taught that, what happens here stays here in this house. And that just taught me that, I couldn't share that with anybody, because if I did, that made me bad. That made me really wrong.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like that yourself,
Well, and
Lisa?
I think also, you know, it's sharing with the right people, because certainly
Mhm.
if you're sharing your story with the wrong person at the wrong time, it could be detrimental, right?
Sure.
So a lot of times, like, we don't share things because it literally physically or emotionally is unsafe for us to share. And I think that's like, part of that is knowing when to share,
Yeah.
having the right support, like
Mm.
allowing yourself to be supported into the healing process rather than walk on this journey alone. And
Right.
so, and certainly back then, when you and I were around the same age, when we were kids growing up, it wasn't the same world. I think that in general, people didn't really talk about what was happening behind closed doors. And,
Mhm.
you kind of hear it all the time. And it definitely was the same within my family. Generationally and also within my family of origin, that I know I don't hold it against my parents, because I know that's the way they were raised, right? Like, we
Mhm.
don't air our dirty laundry. We don't,
Right.
share with people what actually happens. But what I saw with my parents is that there was nowhere to go with everything that they had to carry, right? It was just like a heavy weight on their shoulders. And with generationally for my parents, there were things they grew up with around mental illness, there was suicide, there was tragic loss, there was poverty, um, on my dad's side of the family, at times hunger, like so many things, right? They overcome. I'm so grateful that they did the work that they did to give me this life. And also, it wasn't easy as a child, right? When you're growing, and some of those patterns can get brought into, current day. So yeah, I definitely can. I can remember my mom saying, "We don't talk about that.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that."
Yeah. Knock it off. It and you're correct. And is, like I had teenage parents. They were so young when they had the three of us. And I look at them and I actually in awe and think of how much they did overcome so that we could have the life that we have, and essentially so that I could be here today talking about the things, all the things, talking about the secrets, bringing them to light, sharing with the audience the education that, has brought me to this point where I can openly and comfortably say, I love my life. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place to be. And so I'm grateful for them and the gifts that they brought into my life. Um, in right, going back into the time period that they were being raised in, right? And so every generation gets to decide for their family, like, this stuff doesn't work for us. Let's try something different. We don't have to hang on to those old belief systems if they no longer are serving us. And we can see that there's better information coming in. And let's take that and apply that into our current families. And I did see that with my own family. It was, we substance abuse and trauma. And when you talk about there not being access to things, like, the women weren't allowed to even have their own credit cards till the 70s. Men weren't allowed to talk about their feelings. That made them look weak. But now we're moving into a generation where, these things are they're no longer facts. They're not the facts of our lives anymore. We don't have to take them with us. So uh, I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you bring up an important point too about, each generation, like, we do inherit some of the challenges and the difficulties, maybe that the generation before us went through. But I think it's, as more and more skills become available, as there's more and more conversation about healing, we have tools today that our parents didn't have access to. And I think it is our responsibility to choose to break the cycle, to choose to have it be different for the next generation. And I mean, that's evolution, right? Over a lifetime, that's the way it's meant to be. And like, our kids will have their own set of stuff that they'll probably be breaking the cycle on. And I think it's just sort of this normal evolutionary process. But I do think, probably because of the access we have to the internet, like, the tools we have are so much greater today than what our parents could ever imagine accessing.
I agree. I agree 100%. We definitely have better information. And even when my mom was alive, she would say to me things like, you're a way better mom than I ever was. And I'm like, no. She said, well, you're always learning and studying. And, I have that, um, I have that gift, right? I have that ability to have the access to the resources. And my mom, she was working and she worked really hard and she took really good care of us. And so when I look at her, I'm like, oh, she was a really great mom. But often as moms, we can feel like we're not doing the best job, right? Because we're holding ourselves to that very high standard of, like, it should be better, it could be better. But I have taken the time to ask for forgiveness from my children, from my husband, from anybody that I may have harmed intentionally, unintentionally, that sort of thing. Do you have something that you can recommend to the audience? If there's something that they're struggling with, if they're seeing that, geez, like this pattern is something I see in my family lineage, what do you recommend for people?
Hmm. I think it's so personal, right? There are so many healing modalities that you can choose. I think that, if you've had a trauma in your past and you are seeing that that is actively affecting you today, I think some sort of trauma informed therapy or healing modality is really important, right? That you want to work with someone who understands trauma and the effects of trauma, to have that healing journey. I have a lot of clients who both work with a therapist and also with me as a life coach, because as a life coach, just to give people a bit of a distinction, um, where therapy, you're often working on your past. You're working on those patterns and those some it can be traumas, things that have happened that you want to overcome. In life coaching, we're very forward focused. We're not necessarily past focused, but we're looking at the what's next. What are you creating now? Who are you becoming in the future? And so the two modalities can actually work really well together. Um, so there are so many things, right? There's the work that you do, of course, which is so powerful. There's hands-on healing and energy work, somatic yoga practice, breath work. Now, I feel like for people, there's usually like something within you that resonates, right? You hear of something, you read something, and it's like, ooh, this is for me. Like, I need to check this out. And I always recommend just following whatever it is within you that you just feel kind of like, there's something here for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good point too, right? Is listening to your inner voice, and it's saying, oh yeah, this really resonates with me. Um, I did that. That
Mhm.
was, like the first instinct was, buy this book and
Mhm.
read it. And then, the next step, right, is, oh, geez, um, I really think I want somebody to walk this journey with me. And in seeking out the life coach, I have been through therapy, and you're so correct in it being such a beautiful blend in needing both aspects of it. And then you might get to that point where the life coach is really what you're looking at, because this portion of it feels complete. And I did get to that point. It was like, I really want to look forward and see what does life have for me on the other side of this healing journey. So that's such a good point, Lisa. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, and I think too is like if you work with someone, whether it be a therapist, a coach, a healer of some sort, and it doesn't resonate for you, you do a session or two and you're like, "Ah, I just don't really like this." s- Shift. Find someone who you resonate with. I think sometimes people stay far too long,
Mm.
in a professional relationship that actually isn't aligned or isn't what they're looking for. And so I always tell people, like, don't be afraid to try. And if it's not in alignment, keep going until you find, the right person that can support you.
I love that there should be some sort of forward progress. It should feel expansive and not restricting and contracting. You should feel like, yeah, this is really making a difference. And if you're
Mhm.
getting into it and it feels really crunchy, get out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And, at the end of the day, it's like just start by sharing your story with someone that you trust, someone
Trust.
that can actually just hold that space for you and, just be able to actually hear you and see you and, be in it with you. I think that that's really important too.
Right. And they say that you become like the five people that you surround yourself with, and surround yourself with people that are rooting for you, that want you to win. Lisa is one of those people who wants me to win, and I love that. And has been supporting me and cheering me on. Lisa, tell everybody how they can work with you.
So, I'm the co-founder of Rise Leadership Circle. I lead it with my daughter, Kayla Jetta. We have been in business together now for 6 years, and you can connect with me on Facebook, just Lisa Liimitta on Facebook. You can go to our website, riseleadershipcircle.com, and check out all of the different programs and things we have to offer.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I love having you here talking about all the secrets, right? All the secrets. It can be from the family down to you, and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. This is so special to be your first guest. And I am going to continue to be cheering you on.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you so much.
I love you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Secret Keepers podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please give us a like and follow so we can invite you back. And if you just want more, visit CorrineZuleger.com. Remember, you're not alone.